Captain Min-jun Park stood on the bridge of the Terra's Venture, watching the stars through the main screen. His ship had been traveling for 3 months beyond the outer edge of known space. The mission was simple: explore new areas and look for signs of other intelligent life. "Captain," said Science Officer Yuki Tanaka from her station. Min-jun walked over to look at her screen. "What kind of readings?" "Multiple large objects moving in formation. They're coming toward us at high speed." Yuki's fingers moved quickly across her controls. "Captain, these aren't asteroids or natural objects. These are ships." The bridge became quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. After hundreds of years of searching, humanity had finally found other intelligent life in the galaxy. "How many ships?" Min-jun asked. 23 vessels. The largest one is about 5 times bigger than our ship." Yuki looked up from her screen. "Captain, they'll reach us in 15 minutes. Min-jun pressed a button on his chair. "All hands, this is the captain. We are about to make first contact with alien vessels. Everyone stay calm and follow procedures." He turned to his communications officer. "Jin-woo, try to establish contact with them." "Communications." Officer Park Jin-woo nodded and began working on his console. "I'm sending standard greeting messages on all frequencies, Captain." The minutes passed slowly. Everyone on the bridge watched the main screen as the alien ships grew larger. When they finally appeared on visual range, several crew members made surprise sounds. The alien ships looked very old-fashioned. They had thick metal hulls with lots of visible weapons stuck all over them. Bright lights flashed along their sides, and smoke came from their engines. To human eyes, they looked like something from an old history book about early space travel. "Captain," Jin-woo said, "I'm getting a response. They're demanding that we stop our ship and prepare to be boarded." The largest alien ship moved closer. It was dark gray, with red markings and dozens of weapon ports. Despite its size, it looked crude compared to the smooth, elegant design of human ships. "They're hailing us again," Jin-woo reported. "The message says they are ships of the Galactic Empire, and we must surrender immediately." Min-jun tried to look serious, but he was having trouble not smiling. The alien ships looked so primitive that it was hard to take their demands seriously. "Put them on the main screen," he ordered. The view changed to show the bridge of the alien ship. A large creature appeared on screen. It had blue skin, 4 arms, and angry red eyes. Gold decorations covered its uniform, and it wore what looked like a metal crown. "Unknown vessel," the alien said, in a deep, threatening voice. "I am Admiral Zethkar of the Hegemony Fleet. You have entered space controlled by the Galactic Empire. Surrender now, or face destruction." Min-jun looked around his bridge. His crew was trying very hard not to laugh. Engineer Song Hae-won had her hand over her mouth. Pilot Lee Soo-jin was biting her lip and looking down at her controls. "Greetings, Admiral Zethkar," Min-jun said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I am Captain Park Min-jun of the human vessel, Terra's Venture. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly relations." Admiral Zethkar's eyes grew even redder. "Humans? We have never heard of your species. It does not matter. You will surrender your ship and submit to Imperial authority." This time, Engineer Hae-won couldn't help herself. She let out a small giggle. The sound was quiet, but Admiral Zethkar heard it. "You dare laugh at the Imperial fleet?" he roared. "No species has ever shown such disrespect to the Empire." Min-jun looked around his bridge again. Now, several crew members were shaking with held-back laughter. The alien ships really did look funny to human eyes. Their weapons looked like toys, and their engines seemed to barely work. "Admiral, we mean no disrespect," Min-jun said quickly. "We're just surprised by your ships." "Surprised? These are the most powerful warships in the galaxy. Our plasma cannons can destroy entire moons. Our shields can stop any weapon." Pilot Sujin made a snorting sound, trying not to laugh. Their shields looked like they could barely stop a strong radio signal, let alone a real weapon. Admiral Zethkar was getting angrier. You think the Imperial fleet is amusing? You primitive creatures have no idea of the power you face. I'm sure your ships are very impressive, Minjun said, still fighting not to smile. It's just that they look different from what we expected. Science Officer Yuki leaned over and whispered to Minjun. Captain, I've been scanning their ships. Their technology is at least 300 years behind ours. Their weapons couldn't damage our hull, and their shields wouldn't stop our basic tools. This information made it even harder for the crew not to laugh. They were being threatened by ships that couldn't hurt them even if they tried. Admiral Zethkar must have sensed their amusement. His four fists clenched tightly. You will learn respect. No one mocks the Empire and lives. Prepare to witness the true power of the hegemony. Admiral, please, Minjun said. We don't want any trouble. We're just explorers. Explorers? Admiral Zethkar laughed, but it was not a nice sound. You will be examples to any other species that thinks they can disrespect the Empire. Watch and learn what happens to those who dare laugh at Imperial might. The alien ships began moving into attack formation. Their weapon ports started glowing with energy. Red lights flashed across their hulls as they prepared to fire. Minjun sighed. He had hoped their first meeting with aliens would be more peaceful. Battle stations, he ordered quietly. His crew moved quickly to their positions, but they still looked more amused than worried. The alien ships were trying to look threatening, but to human eyes, they just looked old and clunky. Admiral, Minjun said one more time, are you sure you want to do this? The time for talk is over, human. Admiral Zethkar roared. You will learn why the galaxy fears the Empire. Minjun looked at his crew. They were all ready, even though they still seemed to think this situation was more funny than dangerous. He wondered if Admiral Zethkar had any idea what he was really up against. Admiral Zethkar pointed one of his forearms at a large asteroid floating nearby. The rocky mass was about the size of a small moon, covered with ice and metal deposits that sparkled in the starlight. Watch carefully, humans, he said, his voice full of pride. This is what happens to those who do not respect the Empire. The Imperial ships moved into a perfect formation around the asteroid. Their weapon ports glowed brighter as they charged their plasma cannons. Red energy crackled between the ships as they prepared for their demonstration. All ships, target the asteroid, Admiral Zethkar commanded. Full power barrage. Show these primitives the might of the Empire. On the Terra's venture, Captain Minjun watched with interest. His crew gathered around their stations, looking curious rather than afraid. Should we move away, Captain? Asked Pilot Sujin. No. Let's see what they can do, Minjun replied. He was genuinely interested in alien technology, even if it seemed old-fashioned. Science Officer Yuki had her scanners focused on the Imperial ships. Captain, they're building up quite a bit of energy. Their weapons are actually more powerful than they look. First in Port 1. The Imperial fleet opened fire all at once. Bright red beams shot from every ship, hitting the asteroid from all directions. The plasma energy tore through the rocky surface, digging deep into the core. Explosions bloomed across the asteroid as the intense heat turned ice into steam and melted metal into glowing liquid. For several minutes, the barrage continued. The asteroid shook and cracked under the assault. Huge chunks of rock flew away in all directions. Finally, with one last massive explosion, the entire asteroid broke apart and turned into a cloud of glowing dust. The Imperial ships stopped firing. Where the asteroid had been, only empty space remained, with some glowing particles slowly spreading out. Admiral Zethkar appeared on screen again, looking very pleased with himself. There, humans. That is the power of the Galactic Empire. Are you ready to surrender now? Captain Minjun looked around his bridge. His crew was studying their readouts with interest, like scientists watching an experiment. That was quite impressive, Minjun said honestly. Your coordination was very good. Engineer Hei-Wan looked up from her console. Captain, their energy output was about 300 terawatts total. Not bad for their technology level. The plasma temperature reached about 50,000 degrees, added Yuki. Their focusing systems are actually pretty clever. When properly resting, Admiral Zethkar looked confused. Are you taking notes? Well, yes, Minjun said. We like to learn about new technology. Your weapons work differently than ours. You should be terrified. Admiral Zethkar roared. We just destroyed a moon-sized object. Yes, you did, Yuki said cheerfully. Though I noticed your power efficiency could be improved by about 40% if you adjusted your plasma flow rates. The alien admiral stared at her. What? Your energy conversion systems, Engineer Hei-Wan explained. They're losing a lot of power through heat waste. We could show you how to fix that if you want. Admiral Zethkar's red eyes grew wide. You want to help us improve our weapons? Why not? Hei-Wan said with a smile. Technology should be shared. That's how everyone gets better. Several Imperial ship captains could be heard talking excitedly in the background of the alien bridge. They seemed very interested in the human suggestions. Admiral Zethkar quickly silenced them. Enough. You humans are clearly trying to trick us somehow. If you think your technology is so much better, prove it. Minjun hesitated. He didn't want to seem aggressive or threatening. Admiral, I don't think that's necessary. Show us your weapons, human. Unless you're too afraid? Minjun sighed and looked at his crew. They all nodded encouragingly. Very well. But just a small demonstration. Well, we can COC the tensive. We are licks the describe. On controls, we are lixiv. He pointed to another asteroid, much smaller than the one the Imperial fleet had destroyed. This one was only about a kilometer wide, just a tiny rock compared to what the aliens had targeted. Yuki, prepare the quantum disruptor. Lowest power setting. Yes, Captain. Yuki worked at her console for a moment. Quantum disruptor. Ready. Targeting the small asteroid. Fire. A thin blue beam shot from the Terra's Venture. It was so quick that it was almost invisible. The beam touched the asteroid for just 1 second. Nothing seemed to happen at first. Then the asteroid simply stopped existing. It didn't explode like the Imperial target had. It didn't break apart or turn to dust. One moment it was there, and the next moment it was completely gone. Not even atoms remained where it had been. The space was perfectly empty, as if the asteroid had never existed at all. The Imperial fleet fell completely silent. Several ships actually started backing away from the human vessel. What? Admiral Zethkar's voice was barely a whisper. What did you do? Quantum disruption. Engineer Hei-Wan explained casually. We broke the bonds between the subatomic particles. The matter converted back to pure energy and dispersed. You unmade it, Admiral Zethkar said, his voice shaking. Well, yes, Yuki said. Though this was just our smallest experimental weapon. We mostly use quantum disruptors for mining operations. Mining? Admiral Zethkar repeated. It's very clean, Minjun explained. No explosive damage to surrounding areas. Perfect for precise excavation work. The Imperial ships had backed away even further. Several were running full scans on the human vessel. But their sensors couldn't understand what they were seeing. Captain, Pilot Sujin said quietly. I think we scared them. Minjun looked at the alien ships on his screen. They were clearly afraid. But he didn't understand why. The humans had only used a tiny mining tool. It wasn't even a real weapon. Admiral Zethkar, Minjun said gently. Are you all right? The alien admiral was staring at his own readouts. His 4 hands were shaking slightly. Your ship, Our sensors can't even tell how you did that. The technology is a bit complicated, Yuki admitted, but we'd be happy to explain it if you're interested in the physics. Admiral Zethkar continued staring at his screens. Around him, his crew was talking in worried whispers. Several were pointing at their instruments and shaking their heads. Admiral. Minjun tried again. We really don't want any trouble. We just want to be friends. But Admiral Zethkar wasn't listening anymore. He was too busy trying to understand how the humans had made an asteroid disappear with what looked like no effort at all. And if this was just their mining equipment, what did their real weapons look like? News traveled fast through the Imperial communication networks. Within hours, every major world in the Galactic Empire had heard about the humans who laughed at the Imperial fleet and made asteroids disappear. On the capital world of Hegemon Prime, emergency sessions were called in the Great Council chamber. Representatives from dozens of alien species gathered in the massive circular room, their voices creating a buzz of worried conversation. Supreme Chancellor Vex High stood at the center podium, her tall gray form commanding attention. Fellow councillors, we face an unprecedented situation. A new species has appeared with technology we do not understand. Councillor Thokmore of the warrior Korgan species slammed his massive fist on his desk. These humans must be conquered before they become a threat. Strike now while we still can. Wait, said the scholarly Velani representative, her tentacles waving thoughtfully. Perhaps we should study them first. Their technology could benefit the entire empire. The bird-like Etherian delegate spread her colorful wings. Violence should be our last choice. These humans showed no aggression. They only demonstrated their abilities when challenged. Chancellor Vex High raised her hand for silence. Admiral Zethkar's report is disturbing. These humans casually displayed technology that makes our best weapons look primitive. On the view screen above the chamber, Admiral Zethkar's face appeared. He looked tired and worried. Counselors, I have commanded Imperial fleets for 40 years. I have conquered 12 star systems. But I have never seen anything like what these humans can do. Explain, Chancellor Vex High ordered. Their ship looks harmless. No visible weapons, smooth hull, almost artistic in design. But they made an entire asteroid simply stop existing. Our science teams cannot explain how they did it. Councillor Thokmore growled. Admiral Zethkar's eyes flashed with anger. I am cautious, Thokmore. This small ship has technology that could destroy our entire fleet without effort. And the humans acted like it was no more dangerous than a tool for digging holes. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some councillors demanded immediate military action. Others called for diplomatic contact. A few suggested hiding, until the humans went away. Meanwhile, on the Terra's venture, Captain Min Jun was having his own communication problems. His console was receiving dozens of messages from different Imperial factions. Captain. Communications, Officer Jinwoo said. We're getting contact requests from something called the Scientific Collective, the Trade Federation, the Military Command, and about 15 different planetary governments. They all want to talk to us separately. Science Officer Yuki added. Some are offering trade agreements, others want technology exchanges, and a few are making threats. Minjun rubbed his forehead. This is getting complicated. I thought we were just meeting one government. From what I can tell, Yuki said, studying the communications, the Empire isn't really united. It's more like a bunch of different groups held together by military force. Engineer Haewon looked up from her station. Captain, some of these messages are really strange. One group is offering to give us entire star systems if we help them fight their enemies. Another is asking if we want to become their new overlords. Overlords? Minjun repeated. We don't want to rule anyone. Pilot Sujin laughed. I don't think they understand that, Captain. They seem to think all advanced civilizations want to conquer things. The main screen flickered, and Admiral Zethkar appeared again. He looked even more worried than before. Captain Park, I need to warn you. The Imperial Council is divided about how to handle your presence. Some factions want to attack you before you become a threat. Minjun felt surprised. A threat? We haven't threatened anyone. Your technology makes you a threat just by existing, Admiral Zethkar explained. The Empire's power comes from having the strongest military. If other species learn that humans have better weapons, it could cause rebellions throughout Imperial space. But we don't want to fight anyone, Minjun said. We just want to explore and make friends. Admiral Zethkar stared at him. Of course, war is terrible. Why would we want that? Because. Admiral Zethkar stopped and thought for a moment. Because that's what powerful species do. They conquer others. Engineer Haywon shook her head. That sounds awful. Why would anyone want to make others suffer? The alien admiral looked confused. For resources. For power. For glory. We have plenty of resources, Yuki said. Our technology lets us make whatever we need. And power over others just seems like a lot of work. As for glory, we get that from exploring and learning new things. Admiral Zethkar was quiet for a long moment. Around him, his crew members were listening to the human responses with obvious surprise. You don't want to conquer anyone? He asked slowly. No, Minjun said firmly. We left that kind of thinking behind centuries ago. We learned that cooperation works much better than competition. But if you don't conquer, how do you grow stronger? We grow stronger by learning, Yuki explained. Every new discovery makes us better. Every problem we solve teaches us something new. War just destroys knowledge and wastes lives. One of Admiral Zethkar's officers leaned over and whispered something urgent in his ear. The Admiral's eyes grew wide. Captain Park, I'm receiving reports that several Imperial fleets are moving toward this position. Chancellor Vex High is sending everything she has. To attack us? Minjun asked. I don't know. Some counselors think you're planning to invade the Empire. Some think you might be what the Empire needs to move beyond constant warfare. Minjun looked around his bridge. His crew seemed as confused as he felt. They had come looking for new friends. But instead, they had walked into the middle of a galactic political crisis. Admiral, Minjun said carefully. What do you think we should do? Admiral Zethkar was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, I think, Captain Park, that you humans are either going to save the galaxy or accidentally destroy it. And I'm not sure which one scares me more. 3 days later, a much larger human ship arrived at the meeting point. The vessel was twice the size of the Terra's Venture and had beautiful curved lines that made it look like a work of art floating in space. Ambassador Sujin Kim stepped aboard Admiral Zethkar's flagship for the formal first contact ceremony. She carried a simple bag and wore clothes that looked comfortable rather than official. Admiral Zethkar had prepared an impressive reception. His best soldiers stood at attention in their finest uniforms. The main conference room was decorated with banners and symbols of imperial power. Everything was designed to show the strength and glory of the Empire. Ambassador Kim looked around the room with interest. This is beautiful, she said with a smile. You must have worked very hard to prepare all this. Admiral Zethkar felt proud. The Empire always honors important guests properly. Thank you. I brought some gifts from Earth. Ambassador Kim opened her bag and pulled out several items. This is a collection of our music. This contains examples of our art and literature. And this, she held up a small device, contains information about our science and technology. Admiral Zethkar stared at the simple gifts. You're giving us your technology? Of course. We always share knowledge with new friends. That's how everyone learns and grows. The alien admiral felt confused again. But your technology is your advantage. Why would you give it away? Ambassador Kim looked puzzled. Why wouldn't we? Knowledge belongs to everyone. The more we all know, the better life becomes for everyone. Several Imperial officers whispered among themselves. This was not how first contact was supposed to work. Usually, new species either surrendered immediately or fought desperately to protect their secrets. Perhaps we should discuss territory agreements, Admiral Zethkar suggested. Which star systems do you claim? We don't claim any systems outside our home area, Ambassador Kim replied. Space is big enough for everyone. Space is big enough. But surely you want resources, planets to colonize, trade routes to control. Ambassador Kim shook her head. We can make whatever resources we need. As for planets, we prefer to explore rather than colonize. And we believe trade should benefit everyone equally. Admiral Zethkar felt a headache starting. Nothing about these humans made sense according to normal galactic politics. What do you want then? 1. To learn about you and your people. To share experiences. To explore the galaxy together. Ambassador Kim smiled warmly. We're excited to meet so many different species. The formal meeting continued for hours. Ambassador Kim answered every question honestly, but her answers only made the Imperial representatives more confused and worried. She explained how Earth had unified peacefully after learning that cooperation worked better than competition. She described human society where machines did most of the work, leaving people free to pursue art, science, and exploration. No one goes hungry or homeless, she said. Everyone has what they need, so people focus on doing what makes them happy. But who is in charge? Asked General Mortok, the Imperial military advisor. We make decisions together. Everyone has a voice in choices that affect them. 1. End quote. End quote. We make decisions to that. End quote. We make decisions together. That's impossible, General Mortok protested. Someone must have ultimate authority. Why? Ambassador Kim asked. If everyone is educated and has their needs met, why do you need someone to force them to behave? The Imperial officers looked at each other nervously. Their entire civilization was based on hierarchy and control. The idea of a society that functioned without force was almost unthinkable. Unknown to the humans, the reception was being broadcast throughout Imperial space. On dozens of worlds, alien citizens watched the strange conversation with growing interest. On the industrial planet Keth 7, worker Zali M watched from his factory dormitory. Did she just say, "No one goes hungry?" he asked his roommate. She must be lying, his friend replied. The strong always take from the weak. But Zali M wasn't sure. The humans seemed so honest and peaceful. What if there really was a better way to live? Similar conversations were happening on worlds throughout the Empire. For the first time in centuries, ordinary citizens began to imagine alternatives to the harsh realities of imperial rule. Back on the flagship, the meeting was getting more tense. Several imperial factions had sent secret representatives, and they were starting to argue among themselves. The humans are clearly planning to weaken us with their lies, declared Agent Vex Cole from Imperial Security. No species could be as peaceful as they claim. 2. Art. Or maybe they're telling the truth, suggested Dr. Yelani from the Science Division. Maybe we're the ones who have been doing things wrong. Agent Vex's Cole glared at the scientist. Careful, Doctor. That sounds dangerously close to treason. Ambassador Kim watched the argument with concern. Is everything all right? Admiral Zethkar tried to regain control. Everything is fine. We're just discussing how our societies might work together. That's wonderful, Ambassador Kim said. Though I should mention that we've detected several large fleets moving toward this position. Are you expecting more guests? And the room went quiet. Admiral Zethkar checked his communications, and his face grew pale. Ambassador Kim, those fleets, they're not coming for a friendly visit. Some Imperial factions have decided you're too dangerous to be allowed to exist. Ambassador Kim looked sad. That's unfortunate. We really don't want to fight anyone. Can your ships defend themselves? Admiral Zethkar asked urgently. If we have to, Ambassador Kim said quietly. But we'd much rather find a peaceful solution. Agent Vex Cole sneered. Your mining beam won't save you from an entire Imperial battle fleet. Ambassador Kim looked at him with confusion. Mining beam? The weapon you used to destroy the asteroid. Oh, that wasn't a weapon. That was just a geological survey tool. Ambassador Kim pulled out a small tablet and showed them some data. Our defensive systems are completely different. Admiral Zethkar looked at the incomprehensible readings on the tablet. He had a terrible feeling that the Empire was about to make a very big mistake. How different? He asked quietly. Ambassador Kim's expression became serious for the first time. Admiral, we stopped using weapons centuries ago. But we never forgot how to protect ourselves. The Imperial attack fleet arrived 6 hours later. 300 warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapons already charging for battle. Admiral Rex Tor, known throughout the Empire as the Destroyer, commanded the massive force. Unknown human vessels, his voice boomed across all communication channels. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. Ambassador Kim stood on the bridge of her ship, watching the Imperial fleet surround them. Captain Minjun's Terra's Venture floated nearby, along with 2 other human vessels that had arrived to help with diplomatic talks. That's a lot of ships, Captain Minjun said over the communication link. Yes, Ambassador Kim replied sadly. I had hoped we could avoid this. Admiral Zethkar's voice came through on a private channel. Ambassador, you need to run. Rex Tor has never been defeated. His fleet could conquer most star systems. Ambassador Kim shook her head. We can't run. If we leave now, your people will think we were lying about wanting peace. Besides, there might be innocents on those ships. Admiral Rex Tor was growing impatient. You have 30 seconds to surrender, humans. Then we will show you the true power of the Empire. Ambassador Kim opened a communication channel to the Imperial fleet. Admiral Rex Tor, I'm Ambassador Kim from Earth. We don't want to fight you. Please reconsider this attack. The time for talk is over, Rex Tor snarled. The Empire will not be mocked by primitive aliens. All ships, open fire. 300 Imperial warships unleashed everything they had. Plasma cannons, missile launchers, particle beams, and energy torpedoes all fired at once. The combined firepower was enough to destroy entire moons. The humans watched the incoming attack calmly. Ambassador Kim pressed a single button on her console. Defensive screens activated, announced her ship's computer in a pleasant voice. The massive barrage struck an invisible barrier around the human ships. Instead of destroying them, the Imperial weapons simply stopped. The energy bolts froze in space. The missiles hung motionless, and the plasma beams spread out harmlessly. Then something strange happened. The trapped weapons began to glow and transform. Instead of explosions, they became beautiful patterns of light that danced around the human ships like aurora displays. What? Admiral Rex Tor stared at his screens. What happened to our weapons? We converted the destructive energy into harmless light, Ambassador Kim explained. It's quite pretty, actually. The Imperial fleet fired again and again, but every shot was absorbed and transformed into more beautiful light shows. Soon, the human ships were surrounded by swirling colors that looked like cosmic art. This is impossible, Rex Tor shouted. Nothing can stop that much firepower. Actually, said Dr. Tanaka from her science station, your weapons are helping us power our systems. Thank you. Admiral Rex Tor felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. His most powerful weapons were being treated like decorations. All ships, ramming speed. Destroy them. With physical force. Several Imperial dreadnoughts charged directly at the human vessels, planning to crush them through impact. Ambassador Kim sighed. Computer. Extend protective fields to include the attacking ships. Extending fields, the computer replied. The charging Imperial ships suddenly slowed down as they encountered the same invisible barriers. But instead of being stopped, they found themselves gently caught and held in place, unable to move forward or backward. "Why aren't you destroying us?" Admiral Rextor demanded, his voice confused and angry. "Because we don't want to hurt you," Ambassador Kim said simply. "You're trying to kill us, but you're still people. Every life is valuable." Inside the trapped Imperial ships, crews were panicking. Their weapons didn't work, their engines couldn't move them, and their enemies were refusing to fight back. But on some ships, different conversations were starting. "Captain," said a young Korgan officer aboard Rex Tor's flagship, "maybe we should listen to them." "Never," Rex Tor roared. "The Empire does not surrender." "But sir, they could have destroyed us easily. Instead, they're protecting us from our own weapons. Maybe they really do want peace." Similar discussions were happening on other ships. Many Imperial soldiers had watched Ambassador Kim's earlier broadcasts and were curious about human society. Now, faced with enemies who refused to hurt them, some began to question their orders. On the research vessel Bright Future, Dr. Vellani made a decision that would change everything. She opened a communication channel to the humans. "This is Dr. Vellani of the Imperial Science Division. I request permission to speak with you." Ambassador Kim smiled. "Of course, Doctor. What would you like to know?" "Everything," Dr. Vellani said. "Your technology, your society, your history. How did you become what you are?" "We learned from our mistakes," Ambassador Kim replied. "We had wars too. Long ago. We hurt each other and destroyed our planet's environment. But we realized that fighting only made everything worse. So you stopped fighting? We learned to solve problems through cooperation instead of violence. We discovered that when everyone works together, everyone benefits." Dr. Vellani's voice was excited. Could other species learn this too? Of course. Every intelligent species has the potential for growth and change. More Imperial ships began joining the conversation. Scientists, doctors, teachers, and even some soldiers started asking questions about human civilization. Admiral Rextor watched his fleet falling apart around him. "All ships, stop talking to the enemy. That's an order." But his orders were increasingly ignored. Too many of his people were fascinated by the possibility of a different way of life. Captain Minjun spoke up. "Admiral Rextor, we know you're a good soldier trying to protect your people. We respect that. But maybe there's a way to protect them that doesn't require fighting." Rextor was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he asked, "What do you mean?" "Help us build something better," Ambassador Kim said. "Not human civilization, but something new that combines the best of all our cultures. The Empire would never allow it. The Empire is just people making decisions. People can change their minds when they see better options." Admiral Zethkar's voice joined the conversation. "Rextor, I've been watching these humans for days. They're not conquerors, they're teachers. Maybe it's time the galaxy learned something new." Rextor looked around his bridge. His officers were watching him, waiting for his decision. For the first time in his military career, he wasn't sure what to do. Ambassador Kim spoke gently. "Admiral, we're going to release your ships now. You're free to go back to the Empire or stay and talk. The choice is yours." The protective fields around the Imperial ships disappeared. Rex Tor's fleet was free to leave or attack again. But something had changed. Instead of reforming for battle, many ships moved closer to the human vessels. Their crews wanted to learn more about this strange species that fought by refusing to fight. Admiral Rextor stared at the scene for a long time. Then, slowly, he powered down his weapons. "This is Admiral Rextor to all Imperial ships. Stand down. We're going to talk." Ambassador Kim smiled. "Welcome to the beginning of something wonderful."